skills, and so here's some fun signs that I learned. Coke, the soda. They don't use this sign anymore, but I love Coke, the beverage. In English, I never use the word perforated, but I try to use it as often as possible in ASL. Fat. Milk, for milking any animal. Whatever. In English, whatever is such a passive-aggressive word, but in sign language, it's like you're slapping your friend with it. Whatever. Now, there are fun words in ASL, and then there's some that you have to be careful about signing, like from, condom, tired, well endowed, pregnant, America. But I might just combine those two to mean the TV show 16 and Pregnant. Work, umbrella, masturbate. So only open your umbrella once, and make sure you've been saying you've been working all day, not... I also learned some words in Kenyan Sign Language, like coffee. In American Sign Language, this is coffee for grinding the coffee beans, and in Kenyan Sign Language, it's for picking the coffee. This is girl in ASL for the bonnet strap, and then this is woman. This is the female part of the face and the male, so it's like female fancy collar, so woman. In Kenyan Sign Language, this is girl, this is woman. We were like, I'm too young to be called ma'am. I never want to be old enough to be called a woman. Deaf culture is very rich in storytelling and comedy, so I'm going to tell a deaf joke. Do you remember this sign?
No.
Do you know what this is?
Milky.
Pasteurized milk. You know who is not lactose intolerant? Martha Stewart. She's like everyone's mom, cooking dinner, helping you with your craft projects for school, been in jail, the all-American matriarch. Unlike other people I'm borderline obsessed with, I never want to meet Martha Stewart. She's scary. Have you ever seen her show? The whole premise is her guest trying to impress her and her crazy standards of perfection. Again, like mom. I was in the craft store a couple weeks ago, and I was in the Martha section. They have a Martha section in the craft store. And there's another lady there, and she turned and she gave me this knowing look because we're both remarkable. Remarkable is when you're crafty and clever and you make things that you think Martha would like. As a fan, I'm trying to impress her. The thing I love about Martha is her dislike for children. I recently learned that she's a grandmother, but you'd have no idea if you watched the show. A month ago, they had this costume making episode where they made this baby into a jack-in-the-box, and the baby was paralyzed in fear. And Martha's like, oh, that is the best behaved 7-month-old we've ever had on the show. He's so excited to be here. The baby was terrified, and Martha loved it. In the same episode, she picks up this boy and practically throws him on a counter to show off his costume, and the boy asks to be put down, and Martha's like, why? Does it hurt? And just before that, the boy, who's dressed as a garden gnome, by the way, trips and almost falls on his face, and instead of being concerned, Martha calls him a clumsy gnome in front of a live studio audience. Martha scares children, babies, and her own fans. They brought an audience member up to help her make this dessert, and the poor lady was terrified. Her hands were trembling, and they're trying to peel these pears, and she makes a huge dent in the pear, and Martha looks at her and she goes, that one's yours. If I were to describe Martha in a word, it would be remarkable. Like Martha, I've spent some time in prison. Only in college can you take a film class in a prison. I was at OSCI, Oregon State Correctional Institute, and so half the class were outside students, which were the college students, and the other half were inside students, which were the inmates. And a lot of them, the inside students are in for life, and they were some of the nicest people I have ever met. Which means that if you know some genuinely nice people, watch your back. Just saying. Now, there's a lot of rules for visiting prison. It's almost as if they don't want it to be inviting. Like, you can't bring in weapons, drugs, cell phone, maps. Maps? Do they think that, like, Keys and Legends of Land and Water is going to be the extra boost that inspires them to escape? OSCI is like 3 minutes away from I-5. Now, they also have a dress code. You can't wear any blue clothing of any kind, nothing that reveals skin inappropriately, nothing excessively tight. You can't wear dresses, skirts, hoodies, white t-shirts, bandanas, underwire bras, overwire bras, colored shoelaces, open-toed shoes, or sandals, because God forbid somebody might have a foot fetish. You're wondering, what could you wear then? Exercise clothes, light and brightly colored. So it was a film class, so I'm gonna set the scene for you. The exterior shot, or the establishing shot, is 3 cars pulling into a parking lot, and out steps 12 college students ready to work out. And as they start walking towards the building, it pans up to be prison. Zumba with inmates. Let fear be your motivator. Did you know that they have a library in prison? They have a surprisingly large amount of Nora Roberts books. And I was like, oh, I found a group of like-minded people. But it turns out that bookstores and libraries and whatnot that donate the books just can't wait to get rid of romance novels. And the women's prison's getting a little sick of stories of white knights trying to rescue maidens out of cells. And so, but if prisoners were smart, they would read the romance novels, because I happen to know they contain very detailed descriptions of landmarks. And some of these books have maps of said landmarks. So if you see a lot of men in jeans and dark blue t-shirts walking in the tawny sunset of the Poconos, think Danielle Steele. The greatest lesson I ever learned in prison was when I was standing outside what I can only assume was an ethics class, and there, taped on the wall, was a giant pros and cons list for stealing a car. Pro, you look good in a car. Con, you have to pay for gas. Pro, you can pick up chicks. Con, you have to drive the speed limit. Pro, you don't have to ride the bus. We really need to evaluate our public transportation system if people are being driven towards crime to avoid riding the bus. That also means that the people riding the bus are not the lowest rung of society. And con, if you steal a car, you'll end up in prison. Thank you.